So, another Piers Morgan episode. I have mixed feelings about Piers. I usually find him to be a bit pompous and insufferable, that probably sounded harsh, and his panel discussions tend to degenerate into annoying Jerry Springer-esque spectacles. But on the other hand, he does often have interesting guests on, and for whatever reason, I keep watching. He recently had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and I remember back around the time Neil we're on a first name basis, not really, was hosting the reboot of Carl Sagan's Cosmos. He was generally well liked. That's probably an understatement. He was this beloved science communicator. But I feel like in recent years, maybe his star has dimmed a bit. I'll let you judge whether or not that was an intentional astronomy pun. But, on social media, etc., he seems to regularly receive a lot of pushback on his takes that fall outside the realm of astrophysics, etc. But near the end of the interview, he and Piers get into a discussion about God, and it reminded me of Jordan Peterson's recent appearance on Piers Morgan, which I covered last week, where the two were talking about God and the origins of the universe, etc. Why am I saying God so funny today? Anyway, whether you like Neil deGrasse Tyson or you don't, I thought he handled himself really well during that portion of the interview. I'll play the first of two clips now, and I think it's roughly about 2 minutes long, maybe a little under, but here we go.
I mean, the universe is a gigantic place, right? There must be so many unanswered things anyway. The question I always ask people, because you're an atheist, right? Is that right?
I don't use the title because if I said it, people then assume things about me to be true that are not.
Okay.
And so I realize I have to put some distance between me. But I find myself unconvinced by any God that has been described to me being in charge of anything.
So how do you think we all got here? How did it all start?
Well, I follow the lines of scientific evidence, and we know about evolution. We know about genetic commonality among all life forms on Earth, plant and animal, and fungal. And so this comes to us from very hard work invested in the biological sciences. You add some of that to the geology and astrophysics of the early solar system, and we go from raw ingredients drawn from the periodic table of elements forged in the hearts of stars that are everywhere in the universe, by the way. The ingredients of life, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, that they're the most common ingredients in the universe. And for life to be based on them, it tells you that life is highly opportunistic. And in the early Earth, we went from organic molecules to self-replicating life. We still don't know how that happened. That's a biological frontier with top people
So
working
what was
on it.
this? Here's my
Other
question.
things, we don't know what was around.
Here's my question for you. If I was Merlin, this is what I'd be asking, right? Let's assume you're Merlin for a moment. Merlin, what was there before nothing?
We don't know.
Right. So here's my point.
It's okay to not know. That's the whole point of science.
No, but
the whole point of science is go where you don't know the answer.
That's why I believe in God, because there has to be a superior thing out there which can answer that question.
Whenever Piers poses that argument, he acts so pleased with himself, like he can barely contain his smile, his smug little smile, like he's the first person who ever thought of it. He brought it up during that aforementioned Peterson interview as well. Not that Peterson disagreed, he was actually quite sympathetic. I had joked that they both sounded like they were channeling Stephen C. Meyer from the Discovery Institute. Just because we have trouble wrapping our evolved primate minds around certain mysteries pertaining to the origins of the universe, why does that then mean there must be some supernatural disembodied mind out there that does have the answers? Like I said last week, I guess that's one possibility. I can't disprove it, and I'm not even averse to the idea. I'd love to think that there's some divine intelligence or supernatural entity out there that has a plan for all of us, but I'm skeptical. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, I remain unconvinced. I think religions and, sadly, the God concepts associated with them are man-made. Or maybe not so sadly, depending on the particular God concept. But anyway, let's see how Neil answers.
The human brain cannot answer it because they can't. because nobody knows the answer. Therefore, there has to be, does there not, logically, a superior thing which can answer that question?
Yeah, so that's not an invocation of logic. That's an invocation of what philosophers have historically called the God of the gaps. The God of the gaps is, you look at where science has yet to tread, where science has yet to figure out, and you say, wow, that's mysterious. I don't know how that works. God must have done it. And by the way, for you to feel this way, there's a long, storied history of people thinking this way. Let's go back to AD 150, Claudius Ptolemy, brilliant Alexandrian mathematician, polymath. He wrote in the margin of one of his greatest works, he said, after looking at the planets going back and forth, not fully understanding why they did this, and he writes, when I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies, I no longer touch earth with my feet. I stand in the presence of Zeus himself and take my fill of ambrosia. He was feeling it, okay? He's invoking religion. It's a beautiful quote. It's one of my favorite quotes ever, by the way, because it's so honest and so mysterious and so curious. And what I'm saying here is he did not understand the planets and he invokes deity to help him out. That's what you just did, but on a different frontier, because we know why the planets go back and forth. Newton got that figured out, and Kepler. So if, to you, God is where science has yet to tread, then God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance.
I want to end with just a funny thing. That's a great answer, by the way. It's terrible, but it's a great answer. I want to end because the fact you are...
I like to think I'm pretty good at understanding British humor. I like Monty Python, Ricky Gervais, all that. Remember Absolutely Fabulous, The Young Ones? Man, I'm definitely a Gen Xer. But still, I couldn't quite tell to what extent Piers Morgan was kidding, when in the same breath he oscillates between saying it was a great answer and a terrible answer. Either way, it sounded a bit passive-aggressive or condescending. Maybe he thought it was a terrible answer because he was incapable of mustering a logical or compelling counterargument. I thought it was a fantastic answer, and I loved when he, Neil deGrasse Tyson, referred to Piers Morgan's God of the Gaps as an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. But that's it. This is going to be a short one. I don't know if you can hear all that torrential New England rain in the background. Maybe there is a God and we're in store for another global deluge. I'm shit out of luck, no boat. If I don't drown, I'll see you next time. All right, everyone. Thank you as always. And I'm too lazy to go over all the shameless plugging, but you can always support the show on Patreon, so I don't end up living in a barrel like Diogenes. I should do an episode on that someday.